Welcome to Owning Pleasure as a Black Woman, the podcast for accomplished Black women ready to stop surviving and start thriving. I'm your host, Natasha Riley, licensed therapist and founder of Javer Integrative Wellness Services. This is where we move beyond talking about change to actually creating it. Every episode gives you practical tools to build a daily pleasure practice because you've already proven you can achieve anything. Now it's time to learn how to enjoy it. Ready to bridge the gap between knowing and doing? Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Owning Pleasure as a Black Woman. My name is Natasha, a licensed therapist that focuses on all things pleasure, self-care, and rest for high-achieving Black women. So if that is you, welcome. If you are new here, you have over 100 episodes to build a foundation on self-care, pleasure, rest, what that means for you, and what you want that to look like. And a lot of these are free. Have at it. And if you are an OG here, welcome back. I appreciate you. Thank you for coming back and listening to me go on and on for another week. Now, before we get into this episode, make sure you head over to javerywellness.com/reset to get your 7-day self-care reset. This is a 7-day foundational step to starting self-care. Okay. We have to have foundations. We can't just be out here doing whatever. This is solid foundations for you to not only get started, it's a way for you to feel comfortable doing one thing after another for 7 days and building those good habits. So again, javerywellness.com/reset. Go ahead and get started. Now for today's episode, this is for the woman who puts herself last on the list, even when she wrote the list. That's you. I know it is. For the woman who can name exactly what everyone else wants, her kids, her partner, her team, her parents, her friends, but goes completely blank when someone asks what she needs. For the woman who finally carves out an hour for herself and then spends that entire hour feeling guilty about it, even though from the outside looking in, you look like someone who has it all together. I know this is you that's listening. So we're going to get into this episode. I want to start by naming what this actually feels like because self-care doesn't capture it. Sometimes we struggle with putting words to some of the things that we have going on inside. So it can feel like being pulled in every direction simultaneously with no clear permission to stop. It can feel like your needs are always the ones that can wait. And it feels like choosing yourself is somehow taking away from the people that you love. And this is common. This is very common, and it's been common in how I move. It's common in clients. It's common in team members. It's common in with friends. It's common, especially if you are a high achieving woman who is also a caregiver or a leader and the emotional anchor of your family. Nothing's wrong with you feeling this way. In fact, your nervous system has been very well trained to live in this space. For Black women, especially, choosing yourself can feel like a betrayal, like you're doing something to someone, like you're not being loyal of your family, your community, the people who count on you sacrificing yourself on a day-to-day basis. And we've been given this inheritance script that says our love is measured by our availability, that the more that we give, the more that we care. And that's what people see. The strong Black woman archetype doesn't come with an off switch. It just expects you to keep going. We're not going to sit here and try to diagnose anything, right? Like we're not going to try to break this down and give steps and, rush to fix this. This isn't a quick fix. This is coming from a line of women from survival. And in us, in our nervous system, in our brain, we still feel like we're in a survival space, especially with the world doing what it's doing. But things look a little different for us now. Okay. Yes, it's learned often very early, but it doesn't mean that it can't be unlearned. Many of us grew up in households where, you know, we're we're attuned to others' needs for survival, okay? Emotionally, relationally, sometimes literally. And we learned that taking care of others was safer and made things a whole lot calmer, and it was just more predictable. And over time, that became the default setting. I mean, we saw grandma do it, you saw your mom do it. It would make sense that this is the way that I'm supposed to do things because I ain't never seen anything different.
Listen, I need to be real with you for a second. You're here listening to this episode. Maybe you're not alone. You're feeling seen. And girl, that's beautiful. But if you're like most of my listeners, you're going to finish this episode. You're going to feel all inspired for about 10 minutes and then go right back to your regular life where you're still putting everyone first. I get it. I've been there. But here's what I've learned: the gap between knowing what you need to do and actually doing it is where transformation lives. Now, if you're tired of just consuming content about self care and you're ready to start practicing it, not tomorrow, not next week, but starting today, I created something specifically for you. It's called the 7 Day Self Care Reset, and it's exactly what it sounds like: 7 days of simple, actionable steps that help you move from thinking about prioritizing yourself to actually doing it. No overwhelm, no complicated systems, just practical tools that work with your real life. You'll get permission to put yourself first, learn to recognize those inherited patterns that keep you stuck, and discover what your authentic desires actually are underneath all the expectations. This isn't about adding more to your plate. I'm not going to do that to you. It's about finally honoring what's already on it, starting with you. Ready to stop listening and start living? Visit javerywellness.com/reset. That's RESET. And let's do this work together. Because the woman who just listens and the woman who actually takes action, they live completely different lives. Now, back to the episode.
So that default setting of showing up for other people, giving to other people, teaching people that they will come before you, it becomes the default setting. Even when the original danger is no longer there, the dangers that our ancestors had, I don't want to say they're not there, but they're not as prevalent as it used to be. So our nervous system has learned my needs come last equals everyone stays okay. And it protects you from some things, right? It choosing yourself threatens something. And it's worth naming what? The fear of being seen as selfish, difficult, too much. I've been called all those in my lifetime. The fear that if you stop being endlessly available, people will leave or they will love you less. I have heard this more time than I can count when we're having a conversation in my sessions and they're like, I don't want to be mean. I don't want to not have these friends anymore. I don't want my family not to care about me anymore. All of these fears that if they take the time to choose themselves, that people won't want to be around them anymore. People won't love them anymore. That's a harsh feeling. Like that's a scary feeling, the feeling of being alone because you choose yourself. And so we go back to it's safer, it's calmer, it's more predictable. There's also the fear that your worth is conditional on what you produce for others. Part of you believes if I stop giving, I stop mattering. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you no lies. There are some people in your life where that is true. If you do choose yourself, if you do stop bending over backwards for them, if you do tell them no, they could leave. They could get frustrated. You could have been in their life for what you provided for them. But I always tell my clients, isn't that something that you want to know? Isn't that something you want to know before you continue to pour into this relationship? And doing this on a regular basis, it's going to cost you in the long term. And I'm sure some of you may have already experienced some of these things. Over time, it doesn't just exhaust you, it makes you disappear. People don't notice you. You don't notice yourself. You lose track of what you want, what brings you joy, what brings you pleasure, what you desire. what rest even feels like anymore because you're so busy going for other people. And you might start to notice resentment building. And it's not because you're ungrateful, but because you are exhausted. You are depleted. There is nothing more to give to anybody. The people who love you most are getting a diluted version of you. I've had to have these conversations too, where people are trying to argue their stance on being a good friend. I'm being a good friend by showing up and constantly being available and dropping everything when they need me. And I have to be the voice of reason to say, are you really being a good friend? Because you can't even show up the best version of yourself because you're tired. So they're getting a lackluster version of support because you continue to show up for other people when you don't have it to give. That usually stops the conversation. They become speechless because they never think about it in that sense. You swear up and down by putting yourself on the back burner and burning out that you're being a good friend. You're not being a good friend. You're actually being a pretty crappy friend because the version of you that they would get at your best could probably help them a little bit more. Just me being honest. And here's something else that doesn't get said enough. And I know you're probably like, I hear it all the time. It's a cliche, Natasha, but I feel like it doesn't get said enough for us to hear it and retain it. You cannot pour from an empty cup you've never allowed to be filled. See how that makes you take accountability, right? It's not just you can't pour from an empty cup. You cannot pour from an empty cup that you decided cannot be filled. You made that decision and you don't like what comes because of it. Allow your cup to be filled. Allow yourself to receive help. Allow yourself to rest. I promise you, it's going to be like night and day when you see what it is that you can achieve when you feel poured into. So here's some things I want you to reflect on. I want you to sit with these questions as I do every other episode. You don't have to answer them right now. You can just sit with them. Don't judge them. Question 1. When was the last time you chose yourself? Not because it made you more productive or better caregiver, but just because you wanted to. No reason other than, I just want to do that. Question 2. What's the story you tell yourself about what happens if you say no? If you rest, if you take up space with your own needs. Just notice what the story is. Don't try to complicate it. Don't try to justify it. Just notice what the story is. And question 3. Whose voice is that? Is it yours? Or is it something that you inherited? Noticing is the beginning. Just notice it. Just write it down and put it somewhere to come back to. You don't have to change anything today. I just want you to be curious about these patterns that you've created over this lifetime that has you waking up every other day saying, this can't be it. This can't be right. I can't keep doing this every single day. I don't want to do that. And before we close out, we have to, this is you understanding the patterns. This is you understanding that you are making decisions that create a pattern of you putting yourself last, where it comes from, why it makes sense, and what it's costing you in your lifestyle. But as always, understanding the pattern and actually shifting it, especially those that are deep, over layered patterns, they're two different things. Therapy is where we can help you practice choosing yourself in real time, not just in theory. We can help you work through the guilt that comes up when you do, because there will be guilt. It will come. I'm not going to sit here and play games with you. The guilt is going to come up. And we're going to be able to identify whose needs you've actually been carrying and what it would look like to set some of those down safely. There's not this is not something you have to figure out by yourself. This is not something that you have to wake up every day. How do I make the best decision? And honestly, trying to untangle these patterns, these old things that you've been doing for sometimes decades without support can sometimes make things harder, not necessarily easier. So If something in this episode landed and you recognize yourself in these patterns and you're tired of waiting for permission to change it, our clinicians at JV Integrative Wellness Services work with women like you every single day. And you start by completing our intake form over at jvwellness.com/get-started. There's no urgency, no pressure. It's just a clear next step whenever you're ready. And if you're not quite there yet and you're like, okay, I just want to keep exploring, head over to our 7-day self-care reset. It's a very gentle place to start. And you can grab that over at jvwellness.com/reset. And if this episode just resonated, please give me 30 seconds of your time to leave a rating and a review. It's how other women who need this message are actually going to find it. So thank you for listening to this episode today. And remember, choosing yourself is not taking from the people you love. It makes it possible for you to truly show up for them. And you deserve to be on your own list. It only makes sense, doesn't it? So I love you so much, and I will talk to you in the next episode. Bye.
And that's a wrap on today's episode of Owning Pleasure as a Black Woman. If this conversation sparked something in you and you're ready to take action, don't let that inspiration fade by Monday morning. Visit www.jrewellness.com/reset and start your free 7-day self-care reset today. Because the woman who just listens and the woman who actually takes action, they live completely different lives. Talk to you next week. Bye.